Chaitanya, you are the head of environment at the New Economics Foundation. A lot has been spoken about how actually with this Green New Deal, the idea that actually helping us meet our net zero emissions is a massive opportunity as well at this time of economic downturn to help the economy with thousands, even millions of jobs across the planet working towards reducing our carbon footprint. What are you looking forward to hear from this environmental bill? What do you think it should contain at a minimum?
We are, in fact, doing a lot of work in that space. We do agree that we can create millions of jobs, which we need. We are facing massive unemployment moving into 2021. We think, at least based on our analysis, about 500,000 jobs could be created just in investing into green infrastructure. And we've seen the Prime Minister and Number 10 make some right noises in that space. I suppose the challenge with the Environment Bill and this specific piece of legislation focusing on deforestation really comes down to the question of legality and how do we define what is legal. The legal frameworks in different countries are different. So the expectation that you have large companies apply different definitions of what is legal and what isn't just makes it very complicated. It is not unusual for the UK government to expect a standard of legal definition or legal framework for all companies to apply, regardless of where they source their agricultural products from. I think that's what we need to see from this bill, but it's based on what DEFRA has already suggested. I'm not sure if they're willing to make those changes yet. It's a good piece of legislation, but it does have a lot of loopholes. And if we do not fill those loopholes, you can have clever people with nefarious ways exploiting those loopholes. And we've seen that in the past. There's nothing to suggest we won't see it again.
How are you going to impose people like Jair Bolsonaro, the president of Brazil, to do the right thing when it comes to the environment?
It is very, very difficult. The way multilateralism works right now, firstly, it's very precarious. With Donald Trump being in the office for about 4 years, it has really shaken multilateralism. And we will continue to face that problem moving forward. I think what we've done with climate change, for example, is an expectation of voluntary targets and voluntary commitments from countries around the world. And the idea being that we'll sort of name and shame countries at the global stage. But I think where I agree with Lord Goldsmith is the fact that the UK is really stepping up when it comes to climate change and biodiversity. There's no question about that. But I think where I disagree strongly is the suggestion that we somehow are setting the gold standard or somehow are there's no need to sort of go further, faster. I think what we've done with net zero, for example, on climate change is a fantastic example. Theresa May put in law net zero by 2050. What has happened since is some of the major economies in the world, like China, Japan, South Korea, these are some very large carbon emitters, have basically turned around and said, we will put in law a net zero target in the foreseeable future, 2050, 2060. So we can set the bar high. And what we've done in this case around deforestation is we've set the bar relatively low. We've basically told companies that if you want to go higher, you may, but by setting the bar quite low, we've basically not created a level playing field. There are two other sort of key things to identify, which are, again, quite problematic and creates loopholes in the legislation. One is around finance. The fact is a lot of these companies that are involved in deforestation are basically bankrolled by UK banks. The latest figure suggests that about £6.5 billion is what we have spent so far in propping up these businesses between 2013 and 2019. That's a lot of money.
So just to get this right, British banks are paying for companies that are responsible for something that we are trying to stop, which is the illegal deforestation.
Exactly. So you sort of give with one hand, take with another, and it's a sort of short-sighted approach to legislation, and still fully isn't clear why we are putting aside the finance sector out of this. The second is again, when Lord Goldsmith said large companies, and that's the key qualifier, large. We have not defined exactly what large is. According to the legislation, we want to define it based on the turnover of a company. But what data from HMRC sort of suggests is there are a large number of small companies, in fact, that import commodities that risk deforestation in large parts of the world. So how are you going to bring them in? And might you be creating an incentive for smaller companies to run rampant about procuring products that have deforestation impacts down the supply chain? So ignoring these aspects basically creates loopholes, like I said, and significant challenges moving forward. Again, this is not to take away the fact that this is a very good step, but if you do not deal with these loopholes, you're basically creating a house of cards that might fall and not lead to the results that you need to see.